Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Have you ever made a decision that felt completely right only to regret it later? What if I told you that your biggest enemy isn't other people, it's the way your own mind works? Every single day, your brain takes shortcuts. Most of the time, they help. But sometimes those same shortcuts quietly push you toward bad decisions, wasted money, and missed opportunities without you ever realizing it. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman reveals why this happens and how understanding your mind can help you make better choices in every part of life. Chapter 1. Two minds inside every decision. Think about the first thing you did this morning. Maybe you reached for your phone before your eyes were fully open. Perhaps you brushed your teeth while thinking about something completely unrelated. You probably didn't stop to calculate every movement or consciously decide which foot should move first. Your body simply knew what to do. Now imagine someone suddenly asks you, what is 27 multiplied by 46? Everything changes. You slow down. Your attention narrows. You begin calculating step by step. The effortless feeling disappears, replaced with concentration. These two moments may seem unrelated, but according to Daniel Kahneman, they reveal one of the most important truths about the human mind. We don't think in just one way. Instead, our brain operates through two very different systems that are constantly working together. The first is fast, automatic, and almost effortless. Kahneman calls it System 1. It recognizes faces, understands simple words, finishes familiar sentences, and helps us react before we've had time to think. Without it, everyday life would be painfully slow. Even crossing a busy street would require exhausting mental effort. System 1 is remarkably efficient because it relies on patterns built from years of experience. It sees something familiar and immediately offers an answer. Most of the time, that answer is good enough. The second system works very differently. System 2 is slower, deliberate, and analytical. It wakes up when a problem demands careful reasoning. Solving a difficult equation, comparing job offers, planning a business strategy, or reviewing a contract all require this slower mode of thinking. The problem is that System 2 is mentally expensive. Your brain is constantly trying to conserve energy, so whenever possible, it lets System 1 take control. Instead of carefully examining every situation, it accepts the quick answer that arrives first. This usually works well. Imagine recognizing a friend in a crowded room. You don't calculate the distance between their eyes or measure the shape of their face. Recognition happens instantly. That's System 1 doing exactly what it was designed to do. But the same system that helps you recognize a friend can also lead you into serious mistakes. Suppose you meet someone who speaks confidently, dresses professionally, and maintains steady eye contact. Within seconds, your brain begins building a story. You assume they're intelligent, trustworthy, and competent. The surprising part is that you have almost no real evidence. Your mind simply filled in the missing pieces because that's what System 1 loves to do. It creates complete stories from incomplete information. System 2 could question those assumptions. It could ask, do I actually know this person? Am I judging facts or just impressions? Yet in many situations, it never gets the chance. By the time careful thinking arrives, the first impression has already shaped your judgment. This explains why smart people sometimes make surprisingly poor decisions. Intelligence doesn't prevent cognitive mistakes. Often, it simply helps us justify them more convincingly. Kahneman's first lesson is both simple and unsettling. Your greatest thinking mistakes rarely happen because you aren't intelligent enough. They happen because your brain is designed to work efficiently, not perfectly. The moment you understand that there are two different voices inside your mind, one fast and one slow, you begin to notice them everywhere. And once you notice them, you'll never see your own decisions in quite the same way again. In the next chapter, we'll look at the shortcuts your brain takes every day and why those shortcuts, while useful, can quietly lead you away from the truth. Chapter 2. The shortcuts your mind takes. Imagine you're walking into a supermarket after a long day. You weren't planning to buy snacks, but within minutes, a colorful display near the entrance catches your eye. Before you know it, you've picked up a bag of chips. It feels like a choice you made in the moment, but in reality, your brain had already taken a shortcut. Daniel Kahneman explains that our minds rely on mental shortcuts, or heuristics, to handle the thousands of decisions we face every day. If we carefully analyzed every situation, even the simplest tasks would become exhausting. So instead, the brain looks for familiar patterns and reaches quick conclusions. Most of the time, these shortcuts are helpful. They save time, reduce mental effort, and allow us to react quickly. But they also have a hidden downside. Because the brain prefers speed over accuracy, it sometimes reaches conclusions with very little evidence. Think about the last time you heard a shocking news story. If similar stories keep appearing on your social media feed, you may begin to believe those events happen all the time, even if they're actually rare. Your mind mistakes what is easy to remember for what is common. The same thing happens when we judge people. A confident voice, a friendly smile, or an expensive suit can shape our opinion long before we know anything meaningful about someone's character. The surprising part is that these judgments happen automatically. We don't choose them, they simply appear. And unless we stop to question them, we often accept them as facts. Kahneman isn't suggesting that intuition is always wrong. In many familiar situations, it serves us remarkably well. The danger comes when we trust those quick impressions in decisions that deserve careful thought. The more important the decision, the more valuable it becomes to slow down and ask a simple question. Am I looking at the whole picture or just the shortcut my brain wants me to see? That single question can often be the difference between a smart decision and an expensive mistake. Chapter 3. Why First Impressions Can Fool You. Have you ever met someone for just a few minutes and felt certain you knew exactly what they were like? Maybe they spoke confidently, smiled warmly, or dressed professionally. Almost instantly, your mind labeled them as intelligent, trustworthy, or capable. It felt natural. It even felt accurate. According to Daniel Kahneman, this is one of the brain's most common habits. When we have only a small amount of information, our mind doesn't like uncertainty. Instead of waiting for more evidence, it quickly fills in the missing pieces and creates a complete story. The problem is that the story often feels more convincing than it actually is. This is why first impressions can be so powerful. Once your brain reaches a conclusion, it begins looking for details that support it, while quietly ignoring anything that doesn't. Imagine you're interviewing two job candidates. The first one is confident and speaks fluently. The second seems a little nervous, but has stronger skills and experience. Without realizing it, you may favor the first candidate simply because your initial impression was more positive. The same pattern appears in everyday life. We judge books by their covers, trust familiar faces more than strangers, and sometimes mistake confidence for competence. Kahneman reminds us that our minds naturally prefer simple stories over incomplete facts. But reality is rarely that simple. A person's appearance, confidence, or first few words reveal only a tiny part of who they really are. That's why the best decisions rarely come from first impressions alone. They come from slowing down, asking questions, and allowing evidence to replace assumptions. The next time you feel completely certain about someone or something after only a brief encounter, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, do I know the facts, or am I simply believing the first story my mind created? That small pause may save you from a judgment you'll later regret. Chapter 4. The Confidence Trap. Confidence is persuasive. When someone speaks with certainty, maintains eye contact, and never seems to hesitate, we naturally assume they know what they're talking about. What's surprising is that we often judge ourselves the same way. The more confident we feel, the more convinced we become that we're right. Daniel Kahneman argues that confidence and accuracy are not the same thing. Think about how often people predict the future. Investors believe they know which stocks will rise. Business owners are certain their new idea will succeed. Students promise themselves they'll finish a project in half the time it actually takes. Sometimes they're right. Often, they're not. The problem isn't a lack of intelligence. It's that our minds prefer certainty over doubt. We build explanations that make the world seem predictable even when it's full of uncertainty. This is why experts can make confident predictions that later turn out to be completely wrong. Their confidence may sound convincing, but confidence alone is never proof. Kahneman encourages us to become comfortable with saying, "I don't know." It may feel less impressive, but it's often closer to the truth. Good decision-makers don't assume they're always right. They look for evidence that could prove them wrong. They ask questions, consider other possibilities, and accept that some outcomes simply can't be predicted with complete certainty. The lesson is simple but powerful. The louder your confidence becomes, the more important it is to pause and ask yourself, what might I be missing? That question won't eliminate mistakes, but it can prevent many of the ones that confidence quietly creates. Chapter 5. Why losing hurts more than winning. Imagine you find $100 on your way home. You'd probably feel happy for the rest of the day. Now imagine something different. Instead of finding money, you lose $100 from your wallet. The amount is exactly the same, yet the feeling is completely different. The disappointment is stronger than the joy you would have felt from gaining it. Daniel Kahneman explains that this is one of the most powerful patterns in human psychology. We experience the pain of losing far more intensely than the pleasure of gaining. He calls this loss aversion. This single bias influences countless decisions. People hold on to failing investments because selling would mean admitting a loss. Employees stay in jobs they no longer enjoy because leaving feels riskier than staying. Even in everyday life, we often avoid opportunities simply because we're more afraid of what we could lose than excited about what we might gain. Ironically, this instinct once helped humans survive. Being cautious around danger increased the chances of staying alive. But in the modern world, the same instinct can keep us trapped in situations that no longer serve us. That doesn't mean every risk is worth taking. Kahneman's point is that fear of loss shouldn't be the only factor guiding our decisions. Before saying no to an opportunity, ask yourself one simple question. Am I avoiding this because it's a bad decision or because I'm simply afraid of losing something familiar? Sometimes the biggest obstacle to growth isn't a lack of opportunity, it's our natural tendency to protect what we already have, even when letting go could lead to something better. In the next chapter, we'll explore another hidden bias, why we're surprisingly bad at predicting the future, even when we believe we've planned everything carefully. Chapter 6. Why we're so bad at predicting the future. Have you ever started a project thinking this'll only take a few days, only to find yourself still working on it weeks later? Almost everyone has experienced this. We underestimate the time, effort, and obstacles ahead, even when we've made the same mistake before. Daniel Kahneman calls this the planning fallacy. When we think about the future, our minds naturally focus on the best-case scenario. We imagine everything going according to plan and overlook the unexpected delays that are almost certain to happen. This is why businesses miss deadlines, students postpone assignments until the last minute, and home renovations often cost more than expected. The interesting part is that experience doesn't always protect us. Even after making the same mistake several times, we still believe this time will be different. Our optimism isn't always harmful. It encourages us to pursue goals and take on challenges. But when optimism replaces realistic planning, disappointment becomes almost inevitable. Kahneman suggests looking beyond our own expectations. Instead of asking, "How long do I think this will take?" ask, "How long did it take other people in a similar situation?" That small shift moves us from hope to evidence. The future will always contain uncertainty, and no plan is perfect. But the people who make better decisions aren't the ones who predict everything correctly. They're the ones who leave room for the unexpected. The next time you're making a plan, remember this: confidence can inspire action, but realistic expectations are what keep you on track. In the final chapter, we'll bring everything together and discover how these ideas can help us make wiser decisions every single day. Chapter 7: Learning to Think More Wisely. By now, one thing should be clear. The goal isn't to silence your fast-thinking mind. Without it, even ordinary tasks would become exhausting. The real goal is to recognize the moments when instinct isn't enough. Daniel Kahneman reminds us that better decisions don't come from thinking harder all the time. They come from knowing when to slow down. Before making an important choice, take a moment to question your first reaction. Ask yourself, what evidence supports this? Or is there another explanation I haven't considered? Those few extra seconds can reveal mistakes that would otherwise go unnoticed. It's also helpful to accept uncertainty. We often feel pressure to have immediate answers, but some of the best decisions come from being willing to wait, gather more information, and change our minds if new evidence appears. This doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. No one can avoid them completely. But becoming aware of your mental shortcuts makes it much harder for those shortcuts to control your life. In the end, Thinking Fast and Slow isn't just a book about psychology. It's a reminder that the human mind is powerful yet imperfect. Understanding how it works doesn't make you flawless. It simply makes you more aware. And sometimes that awareness is the difference between reacting automatically and choosing wisely. In the final section, we'll bring together the book's most important lessons and see how they can shape the way we think, decide, and live every day. Chapter 8: Key Lessons and Final Takeaway. Every day, your mind makes thousands of decisions. Most happen so quickly that you never notice them. That's not a flaw. It's simply how the brain is designed to work. Throughout this book, Daniel Kahneman has shown us that we all have two ways of thinking. One is fast, intuitive, and effortless. The other is slow, careful, and analytical. Both are valuable, but problems arise when we rely on the fast system in situations that demand deeper thought. We've also seen how first impressions can be misleading, why confidence doesn't always equal competence, why losses feel more painful than gains, and why we're often too optimistic about the future. None of these habits make us irrational people. They simply make us human. The encouraging part is that we don't need to think slowly all the time. We only need to recognize the moments that truly matter. The next time you're about to make an important financial decision, judge someone's character, or react emotionally to a situation, pause for just a few seconds. Ask yourself, am I responding with careful thinking, or am I simply following my first instinct? That brief moment of reflection may not change every decision, but over months and years, it can change the direction of your life. Perhaps the greatest lesson from thinking fast and slow is this: your mind is an incredible tool, but it's not an infallible one. The better you understand how it works, the better your decisions become. Thank you for listening. If you found this summary valuable, remember that knowledge becomes meaningful only when it's put into practice. Start noticing your own thinking today, and you may discover that the smallest pause before a decision can lead to the biggest difference in your future.